So the first task to objectifying Pong is to create the paddle class. And so let's just review the code that we have so far. So then this up here forces the position of the screen to be centered. And then we create a couple of variables that have to do with the running of our program. This might be set as global variables in your program, but I set them as local. And then we start up Pygame, display, open up the window. We could see that we have all of our ball variables, or all the variables that have to do with our ball here. I have all the variables that have to do with my two paddles here, and then I have my game loop, my for loop that goes through the keystrokes, setting left up or right down. These variables might be different from what you have, but same purpose. And then once we break out of that game loop, then the keyboard for loop, or the input for loop, then we are going to come here, and this adjusts the paddle speed. This adjusts the paddle's location based on whether they press up or down. Here's the ball's logic, and here's some more paddle logic that has to do with the movement of the paddle. So I guess we should put this right here next to the paddle, because we kind of want all the paddle's logic to be, and if you're wondering here, I'm pressing Alt. We want the paddle's logic to be all kind of put together in the same spot, and then all the ball's logic to be also be put together in the same spot. And then at the very bottom we have the blitting of all the sprites onto the screen, and then we flip, which burns it to this monitor, right? Okay, so that's our game, and now we want to, instead of creating a set of variables for the paddle and a set of variables for the second paddle, create a class for it. And then once we have a class for it, then we could just create objects of the class. So how do you create a class? I guess we could say like def capital P paddle. No, not def. Okay, we're gonna do class paddle. And sounds good. I don't think there's the parentheses though. Let's actually take a look here. Python class definition example, and we can come over here. Okay. No, that's not telling us how to do. Okay. I guess the best example would be to go into interactive Python. That'd be like a nice simple example for us. So let's maybe come over here. So there's no parentheses, right? So then I'm coming back into PyCharm, class paddle, and then I start with my init function. And that's the only one that I am going to write for now. So we do that. And basically what we want to do is create all the instance variables that we need to create a paddle object, right? And so which of these variables do we need to like describe a single paddle? We would need these, right? So I guess I don't need to copy it. I could just like come in here and say self p underscore width, self p underscore height, and then I am going to say self.p underscore speed is equal to something, self dot, and here now I'm here at the surface of the paddle, and the surface when we're dealing with games built using Pygame are always called image. Okay, so I'm going to say self image is equal to, and then the recs that we're going to be using, they're always called rect. So I'm going to say self dot rect is equal to. Okay, and so now what you want to do is take a look at these variables here and say, is there any information that the constructor, right, this function here or this method here of the paddle class needs from main in order to initialize these variables to their starting values, right? Well, let's start with the first one here. Does this need any information from main? Yes, it does, right? It needs the width of the paddle, like that number 40. And then does this need any information? Yes, it needs the 160. The speed needs the 8, right? So we should probably set that up in our as a argument for our constructor. So then here we're gonna just say, maybe we could just say width, height, and speed as our first three arguments. And then over here, do we need anything? No, we don't, because we already have that. We already have that. Here, do we need anything? I think we need the window height and the window. Yeah, we need the window height, right? So let's take that one in. And so that's the argument for why these variables here should be global, right? So maybe I could just go ahead and make them global out here, and that would save me the trouble. Because they should be global, right? And then if I do make them global, then I need to say global win height, win width, and white, and FPS. Okay. And what does this do? It just signifies that whenever I reference these variables here, I'm not creating new variables with these names. I am using these global variables that I created earlier. Okay. So yeah, so then I won't need anything else, just the width, the height of the paddle, and the speed of the paddle. So then here for the p width, I'm going to set that equal to width. I'm going to set my height equal to height, and I'm going to set my speed equal to speed, and then my image, I'm going to take this call to pygame.surface, put it right here, and instead of, I need the balls width. Wait, do I need the balls width? Okay, I think I got the wrong line of code. This is what I want right here. So I'll copy that, put it right here. This is going to be speed, and then I'll put it here for the image. And then instead of paddle width, because that's the variable that we used here in main, we're going to use p width. Right? And then instead of the paddle height, I'm going to use p height. And not just p width and p height, but self.p width and self.p height. Okay. And then the rect, I'm going to grab this, copy it, paste it over here, and again, I'm not going to use paddle underscore width. I'm going to use the instance variable of my paddle class that I just created here, and then I'm going to grab my self.p height, and I'm going to put it here and here. And I think that's about it, right? So we went ahead and made our paddle class. It is right here, and it contains all the variables that we need to describe a paddle.